Welcome back to another day of reading Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. Today we're going to be reading chapters 8 and 9. Summer drew to an end. In early autumn, it was past Michaelmas, but the harvest was late that year, and a few of our fields were still unclear. Michaelmas. Mr. Linton and his daughter would frequently walk out among the reapers at the carrying of the last sheaves. They stayed till dusk, and the evening happened to be chill and damp. My master caught a bad cold, that settled obstinately on his lungs, confined him indoors throughout the whole of the winter, nearly without intermission. Poor Kathy, frightened from her little romance, had been considerably sadder and duller since its abandonment, and her father insisted on her reading and taking more exercise. She had his companionship no longer. I esteemed it a duty to supply its lack so much as possible with my inefficient substitute, for I could only spare 2 or 3 hours from my numerous diurnal occupation to follow her footsteps, and then my society was obviously less desirable than his. On an afternoon in October, on the beginning of November, a fresh, watery afternoon, and the turf of paths was rustling with moist, withered leaves, and the cold blue sky was half hidden by clouds, dark gray streamers rapidly mounting from the west and embodying abundant rain. I requested my young lady to forego her ramble because I was certain of showers. She refused, and I unwillingly donned a cloak and took my umbrella to accompany her on a stroll to the bottom of the park, a formal walk which she generally affected in low spirit, and that she invariably was when Mr. Edgar had been worse than ordinary, a thing never known from his confession, but guessed both by his and her and me from his increased silence and the melancholy of his countenance. She went sadly on, that there was no running or bounding now, that through the chill wind there might have tempted her to a race. And often from the side of my eye I could detect her raising a hand and brushing something off her cheek. I gazed round for means of diverting her thoughts. On one side of the road rose a high, rough bank, where hazels and stunted oaks, with their roots half exposed, held uncertain tenure. The soil was too loose for the latter, and strong winds had blown some nearly horizontal. In summer, Miss Catherine delighted to climb these tree trunks and sit in the branches, swinging 20 feet above the ground, and I, pleased with her agility and her light childish heart, still considered it proper to scold every time I caught her at such an elevation, but so that she knew there was no necessity for descending. From dinner to tea she would lie in a breeze-rock cradle, doing nothing except singing old songs, my nursery lore, to herself, or watching the birds join tenants, feed and entice their young ones to fly, or nestling their closed lids, half thinking, half dreaming, happier than words can express. "Look, miss," I exclaimed, pointing to a nook under the roots of one twisted tree. "Winter is not here yet. There's a little flower up yonder, the last bud of the multitude of bluebells that clouded those turf steps in July with the lilac mist. Will you clamber up and pluck it to show to papa?" Kathy stared a long time at the lonely blossom trembling in the earthly shelter, and replied at length, "No, I'll not touch it, but it looks melancholy, does it not, Ellen?" "Yes," I observed, "about as starved and sackless as you. Your cheeks and blood are bloodless. Let us take hold of your hands and run it. You are low. I dare say I shall keep up with you." "No," she repeated, and continued sauntering on, pausing at intervals to muse over a bit of moss or a tuft of blanched grass, or a fungus spreading on its bright orange among the heaps of the brown foliage, and ever and anon her hand was lifted to her averted face. "Catherine, why are you crying, love?" I asked, approaching and putting my arm over her shoulder. "You mustn't cry, because papa has a cold, and thankful it is nothing worse." She now put no further restraint on her tears. Her breath was stifled by sobs, stifled. "Oh, it will be something worse," she said. "And what shall I do when papa and you leave, and I am by myself? I can't forget your words, Ellen. They are always in my ear. How life will be changed, how dreary it will be when papa and you are dead." "None can tell whether you won't die before us," I replied. "It's wrong to anticipate evil. We'll hope there are years and years to come before any of us must go. Master is young, and I am strong, and hardly 45. My mother lived till 80, a canty dame to the last. And suppose Mr. Linton has spared till saw 60, and would be more years that you have counted, miss. That would be more years than you have counted, miss. And would it not be foolish to mourn a calamity above 20 years beforehand? But Aunt Isabella was younger than Papa, she remarked, gazing up with him in hope to seek further consolation. Aunt Isabella had not you and me to nurse, I replied. She wasn't as happy as master, she wasn't as much to live for. All you need to do is to wait well on your father and cheer him up by letting him see you're cheerful and avoid him in anxiety. On a subject. Come on, Kathy, I'll not disguise, but you might kill him if you were wild and reckless and cherished a foolish, fanciful affection for the son of a person who would be glad to have him in his grave and allow him to discover that you fretted over the separation he has judged it expedient to make. I fret about nothing on the earth except Papa's illness, answered my companion. I care for nothing in comparison with Papa, and I'll never, oh never, while I have my senses, do an act or say a word to vex him. I love him better than myself, Ellen, and I know it by this. I pray every night that I may live after him, because I would rather be miserable than that he should be. That proves I love him better than myself. Good words, I replied, but deeds must prove it also. And after he is well remembered, we don't forget resolutions formed in the hour of fear. As we talked, we neared a door that opened on the road, and my young lady, frightened into sunshine again, lightning into sunshine again, climbed up and seated herself on the top of the wall, reaching over to gather some hips that bloomed scarlet on the summit branches of the wild rose tree, shadowing the highway side. The lower fruit had disappeared, but only birds could touch the upper, except from Kathy's presentation. In stretching to pull them, her hat fell off, and as the door was locked and proposed scrambling down to recover it, I bid her be cautious lest she got a fall, and she nimbly disappeared. But the return was no such easy matter. The stones were smooth and neatly cemented in the rosebush and blackberry staggers could yield no assistance in reascending. I, like a fool, didn't recollect that till I heard her laughing and exclaiming, "Ellen, you'll have to fetch the key, or else I must round to the porter's lodge. I can't scale the ramparts of the side. Stay where you are," I answered. "I have my bundle of keys in my pocket. Perhaps I may manage to open it. If not, I'll go." Catherine amused herself by dancing to and fro before the door, where I tried all the keys in succession. I applied to the last, and found that none would do. So, repeating my desire that she would remain there, I was about to hurry home as fast as I could when an approaching sound arrested me. It was the trot of horses. Kathy's dance stopped. In a minute the horses stopped also. "Who was that?" I whispered. "Ellen, I wish you could open the door," whispered back my companion anxiously. "Ho, ho, Miss Linton," cried a deep voice, the writer's. "I'm glad to meet you. Don't be in haste to enter, for I have an explanation to ask and obtain." I shan't speak with you, Mr. Heathcliff," answered Catherine. "Papa says you are a wicked man, and you hate both him and me, and Ellen says the same." "This is nothing to the purpose," said Heathcliff. It was. "I don't hate my son. I suppose this is concerning him that I demand your attention. Yes, you have cause to blush. 2 or 3 months since you were not in the habit of writing to Linton, making love and play, eh? You deserve, both of you, flogging for that. You're especially the elder and less sensitive, as it turns out. I've got your letters, and if you give me any pertness, I'll send them to your father. I assume you grew weary of the amusement and dropped it, didn't you? Well, you don't. Linton willed it into a slough of despond. He was in earnest, slew of despond. He was in earnest in love, really, as true as I live. He's dying for you, breaking his heart as a fickleness, not figuratively, but actually. Through Harriet, has made him a standing jest for 6 weeks, and I have used more serious measures to attempt to frighten him out of his idiocy. He gets worse daily, and he'll be under the sod before summer unless you restore him. How can you lie so glaringly to the poor child?" I called from the inside. "Pray write on. How can you desperately get up such paltry falsehood? Miss Cathy, I'll knock the lock off with a stone. You won't believe the vile nonsense you can feel in yourself. It is impossible that a person should die for love of a stranger." "I was not aware they were eavesdroppers," muttered the detected villain. "Worthy Mrs. Dean, I like you, but I don't like your double-dealing," he added aloud. "How could you lie so glaringly as to affirm I hated the poor child, and invent bugbear stories to terrify her from the door-stones? Catherine Linton, the very name warms me, my bony lass. I shall be from home all the week. Go and see if I have not spoken the truth. Do, there's a darling. Just imagine your father in my place, and Linton in yours, and then think how you would value your careless lover if he refused to stir a step to comfort you when your father himself entreated him. And don't, from pure stupidity, fall into the same error. I swear on my salvation that going to his grave, and none but you can save him." The lock gave way, and I issued out. "I swear Linton is dying," repeated Heathcliff, looking hard at me, and grief and disappointment are hastening his death. "Nelly, if you won't let her go, you can walk over yourself, but I shall not turn this time next week, and I think your master himself would scarcely object to her visiting her cousin. Come in," and said I, taking Kathy by the arm and half forcing her to re-enter, for she lingered, viewing with troubled eyes the features of her speaker, too stern to express his inward deceit. He pushed his horse close, and bending down, observed, "Miss Catherine, I'll own to you that I have little patience with Linton, and Hareton and Joseph have less. I'll own with that he's a harsh set. He pines for kindness as well as love, and a kind word from you will do the best medicine. Don't mind Mrs. Dean's cruel cautions, but be generous and contrive to see him. He dreams of your day and night, and cannot be persuaded that you don't hate him, and since you neither write nor call. I closed the door and rolled a stone to assist the loosening lock, and holding it and spreading an umbrella, I drew my charge underneath, for the rain began to drive through the moaning branches of the trees, and warned us to avoid delay. Our hurry prevented any comment from the encounter with Heathcliff as we stretched toward home, but I divined instinctively that Catherine's heart was clouded now in double darkness. Her features were so sad they did not seem hers. She evidently regarded that she had heard it as every syllable true. The master had retired to rest before we came in. Kathy stole his bloom to inquire how he was. He had fallen asleep. She returned and asked me to sit with her in the library. We took our tea together, and afterwards she lay down on the rug and told me not to talk, for she was weary. I got a book and pretended to read. As soon as she supposed me absorbed in my occupation, she recommenced her silent weeping. It appeared at present her favorite diversion. I suffered her to enjoy it a while. Then I expostulated, deriding and ridiculing all Mr. Heathcliff's assertions about his son, as if I were certain she would coincide. Alas, I hadn't skill to counteract the effect his account had produced. It was just as he intended. "You may be right, Ellen," she answered, "but I shall never feel at ease till I know, and I must tell Linton it is not my fault that I don't write, and I convince him that I shall not change. What use were anger and protestation against her silly credulity?" We parted that night hostilely, but next day beheld me on the road to Wuthering Heights by the side of my wilful young mistress's pony. I couldn't bear to witness her sorrow, to see her pale, dejected countenance and heavy eyes, and I yielded in the faint hope that Linton himself might prove by his reception of us how little of the tale was founded on fact. Chapter 9. The rainy night had ushered in a misty morning. Half frost, half drizzle, and temporary brooks crossed our paths, gurgling from the uplands. My feet were thoroughly wetted. I was cross and low, exactly the humour suited for making the most of these disagreeable things. We entered the farmhouse by the kitchen way to discern whether Mr. Heathcliff was really absent, because I put slight faith in his own affirmations. Joseph seemed sitting in a sort of elysium, alone, beside a roaring fire, a quart of ale on the table near him, bristling with large pieces of toasted oat cake, and his black short pipe in his mouth. Catherine ran to the hearth to warm herself. I asked if the master were in. My question remained so long unanswered as I thought the old man had grown deaf and repeated it louder. "Nay," he snarled, or rather screamed through his nose. "Nay, go back where you come from." "Joseph!" cried a peevish voice simultaneous with me from the inner room. "How often am I to call you? There are only a few red ashes now. Joseph, come this moment." Vigorous puffs and a resolution stare into the grate declared he had no ear for this appeal. The housekeeper and Hareton were invisible, one gone to an errand, the other at his work. Probably he knew Linton's tones and entered. "Oh, I hope you'll die in a garret, starved to death," said the boy, mistaking our approach for that of his negligent attendant. He stopped to observe his error. His cousin flew to him. "Is that you, Miss Linton?" he said, raising his head from the arm of the chair in which he reclined. "No, don't kiss me. It takes my breath, dear me. Papa said you would call," continued he, after recovering a little from Catherine's embrace, while he stood by, looking very contrite. "Will you shut the door, if you please? You left it open, and those detestable creatures won't bring coal to the fire. It's so cold." I stirred up the cinders and fetched a scuttle full myself. The invalid complained of being covered with ash, but he had a tiresome cough and looked feverish and ill, so I did not rebuke his temper. Well, Linton, cried Catherine, said when his corrugated brow relaxed, are you glad to see me? Can I do any good? Why didn't you come before? He said. You should have come instead of writing. It tired me dreadfully writing those long letters. I'd far rather have talked to you. Now I can neither bear to talk nor anything else. I wonder where Zillah is. Will you, looking at me, step into the kitchen and see? I had received no thanks for my other service, and being unwilling to run to and fro at his behest, I replied, Nobody is out there but Joseph. I want to drink, he exclaimed fretfully, turning away. Zillah is constantly gadding up to Wimerton since Papa went to Glimmerton. It's miserable, and I am obliged to come down here. They resolved never to hear me upstairs. Is your father attentive to you, Mr. Heathcliff? I asked, perceiving Catherine to be checked in her friendly advances. Attentive? What makes them a little more attractive? At least he makes them at least a little more attractive. He cried, The wretches! Do you know, Miss Linton, that brute Hareton laughs at me? I hate him indeed. I hate them all. They are odious beings. Cathy began searching for some water. She lighted on a pitcher in the dresser, filled a tumbler, and brought it. He bid her add a spoonful of wine from a bottle on the table, and having swallowed a small portion, he appeared tranquil, and said she was very kind. Are you glad to see me? Asked she, reiterating her former question, and pleased to detect the faint dawn of a smile. Yes, I am. It's something new to hear a voice like yours, he replied, but I have been vexed because you won't come, and Papa swore it was owing to me. He called me a pitiful, shuffling, worthless thing, and said you despised me. If he had been in my place, he would be more of a master on the grains than your father by this time, but don't despise me, do you, miss? I wish you would say Catherine, or Cathy, interrupted my young lady. Despise you? No, next to Papa and Evelyn, I love you better than anybody living. I don't love Mr. Heathcliff, though, and I dare not come when he returns. Will he stay away many days? Not many, answered Linton, but he goes to the moors frequently since his shooting season commenced, and you will spend an hour or two with me in his absence. Do say you will. I think I will not be peevish with you. You'd not provoke me, and you'd always be ready to help me, wouldn't you? Yes, said Catherine, stroking his long soft hair. If I could only get Papa's consent, I'd spend half more of my time with you, pretty Linton. I wish you were my brother. And then you would like me as well as your father, observed he more cheerfully. But Papa says you would love me better than him and all the world if you were my wife, so I'd rather you were that. No, I shouldn't love anybody better than Papa, she returned gravely. And people hate their wives sometimes, but not their sisters or brothers, and if you were the latter, you would live with us, and Papa would be as fond of you as he is of me. And Linton denied that people ever hated their wives, but Catherine affirmed they did, and in her wisdom, since her own father's aversion to her aunt, I endeavoured to stop her thoughtless tongue. I couldn't succeed till everything she knew was out. Mr. Heathcliff, much irritated, asserted her relation was false. Papa told me, and Papa does not tell falsehoods, she answered properly. My Papa scorns yours, cried Linton. He calls him a sneaking fool. Yours is a wicked man, retorted Catherine, and you are very naughty to dare to repeat what he says. He must be wicked. He made my Aunt Isabel leave him as he did. She didn't leave him, said the boy. You shan't contradict me. She did, cried my young lady. Well, I'd tell you something, said Linton. Your mother hated my father. Now then. Oh, exclaimed Catherine, too enraged to continue. And she loved mine, added he. You are a liar. I hate you now, she panted, and her face grew red with passion. She did, sang Linton, sinking into the recess of his chair and leaning back to his head to enjoy the agitation of the other disputant who stood behind. Hush, Master Heathcliff, I said. That is your father's tale, too, I suppose. It isn't. You hold your tongue, he answered. She did, Catherine, she did. Cathy, beside herself, gave the chair a violent push and caused him to fall against one arm. He was immediately seized by a suffocating cough that soon ended his triumph. It lasted so long that it frightened even me. As to his cousin, she wept with all her might, aghast at her mischief she had done, though she said nothing. I held him till the fit exhausted himself. Then he thrust me away. He leant his head down silently. Catherine quelled her lamentations, also took a seat opposite and looked solemnly into the fire. How do you feel now, Mr. Heathcliff? I inquired, after waiting 10 minutes. I wish she felt as I do, he replied. Spiteful, cruel thing. Hareton never touches me. He never struck me in his life, and I was better today. And there, his voice died in a whimper. I didn't strike you, muttered Cathy, chewing her lip to prevent another burst of emotion. He sighed and moaned like one under great suffering, and kept it up for a quarter of an hour on purpose to distress his cousin. Apparently, for whatever he caught a stifled sob from her, he put renewed pain and pathos into his inflections of his voice. "I'm sorry I hurt you, Linton," she said at length, racked beyond endurance, "but I couldn't have been hurt by that little push. And I had no idea that you could either. You're not much, are you, Linton? Don't let me go home thinking I've done you harm. Answer, speak to me. I cannot speak to you, murmured. You so hurt me that I shall lie awake at night, choking with this cough. If you'd know what it was you, but you'll be comfortably asleep while I am in agony, and nobody near me. I wonder how you would like to pass those fearful nights." And he began to wail aloud, the very pity of himself. Since you are in the habit of passing dreadful nights," I said, "it won't be Miss who spoils your ease. You'd be the same had she never come. However, she shall not disturb you again, and perhaps you'll be quieter when you leave." "Must I go?" asked Catherine dolefully, bending him over. "Do you want me to go, Linton? You can't alter what you've done," he replied pettishly, shrinking from her, "unless you alter it for the worse by teasing me into a fever." "Well, then I must go," she repeated. "Let me alone at least," he said. "I can't bear your talking." She lingered and resisted my persuasions of departure a tiresome while, but as he neither looked up nor spoke, she finally made a movement to the door, and I followed. We were recalled by a scream. Linton had slid past his chair to the hearthstone and lay writhing in the mere perversiveness of an indulged plague of a child, determined to be as grievous and harassing as it can. I thoroughly gauged his disposition from his behavior, and saw at once it would be folly to attempt humoring it. "Not so, my companion," she ran back in terror, knelt down and cried and soothed and entreated till he grew quiet from lack of breath, by no means from compunction at distressing her. "I shall lift him onto the settle," I said, "and he may roll about as he pleases. We can't stop to watch him. I hope you are satisfied, Miss Cathy, that you are not the person to benefit them, and that his condition of health is not occasioned by attachment to you. Now then, there he is, come away as soon as he knows there is nobody to care for his nonsense. He'll be glad to lie still." She placed a cushion under his head and offered him some water. He rejected the latter and tossed uneasily on the former, as if it were a stone or a block of wood. She tried to put it more comfortably. "I can't do with that," he said. "It's too high. It's not high enough." Catherine brought another to lay above it. "That's too high," murmured the provoking thing. "Then how must I arrange it, then?" she asked despairingly. He twined himself up to her, and she half knelt by the settle, and converted her shoulder into a support. "No, that won't do," I said. "You'll be content with the cushion, Master Heathcliff. Miss has wasted too much time on you already. We cannot remain 5 minutes longer." Yes, we can," replied Cathy. "She's good and patient now. He's beginning to think I shall have far greater misery than he will tonight, if I believe he is the worse for my visit, and then I do not come again. Tell the truth about it, Linton, for I mustn't come if I have hurt you." "You must come to cure me," he answered. "You ought to come because you have hurt me. You have extremely. I was not as ill when you entered it as I am at present, was I? But you've made yourself ill by crying and being in a passion." "I don't do it all," said the cousin. "However, we've been friends now, and you want me. You would wish to see me sometimes, really?" "I told you I did," he replied impatiently. "Sit on the settle and let me lean on your knee. That's what Mamma used to do whole afternoons together. Sit quite still and don't talk, but you may sing a song if you can sing, or you may say a nice, long, interesting ballad, one of those you promised to teach me, or a story. I'd rather have a ballad, though. Begin." Catherine repeated the longest she could remember. The employment pleased both mightily. Linton might have another, and after that another, notwithstanding my strenuous objections, and so they went on until the clock struck 12, and we heard Harton at the door returning for his dinner. "And tomorrow, Catherine, will you be here tomorrow?" asked young Heathcliff, holding her frock as she rose reluctantly. "No," I answered, "nor next day neither." She, however, gave a different response, evidently for his forehead cleared as she swooped and whispered in his ear. "You won't go tomorrow, recollect, miss," I commenced, when we were out of his house. "You are not dreaming of it, are you?" She smiled. "Oh, I'll take good care," I continued. "I'll have that lock mended, and you can escape by no way else. I can get over the walls," she said, laughing. "The Grange is not a prison, Ellen. You are not my jailer, and besides, I'm almost 17. I'm a woman, and I am certain Linton would recover quickly if he had me to look after him. I'm older than he is, you know, and wiser than thus childish, am I not? And he'll and he'll soon do as I direct him. With some light coaxing, he's a pretty little darling. When he's good, I'll make such a pet of him. If he were mine, we should never quarrel, should we, after we were used to each other? Didn't you like him, Ellen? Like him, I exclaimed. The worst tempered bit of a sickly slip that ever struggled into its teens. Happily, as Mr. Heathcliff conjectured, he's not win 20. I doubt whether he'll see spring indeed, and small loss to the family whenever he drops off, and lucky it is for us that his father took him. The kinder he was treated, the more tedious and selfish he'd be. I'm glad you have no chance of having him for a father, Miss Catherine. My companion waxed seriously at hearing this speech. To speak of his death so regardlessly wounded her feelings. He's younger than I, she answered, after a protracted pause of meditation, and he ought to live the longest he will. He must live as long as I do. He's as strong now as when he first came into the north. I'm positive of that. It's only a cold that ails him, and as Papa said, you say Papa will get better, and why shouldn't he? Well, well, I cried, after all, we needn't trouble ourselves, for listen, miss, and mind, I'll keep my word. If you attempt going to Wuthering Heights again, with or without me, I shall inform Mr. Linton, and unless he allow it, the intimacy with your cousin must not be revived. It has been revived, muttered Catherine sulkily. Must not be continued, then, I said. We'll see, was her reply, and she set off at a gallop, leaving me to toil in the rear. We both reached home before our dinner time. My master supposed we had been wandering through the park, and therefore he demanded no explanation of our absence. As soon as I entered, I hastened to change my soaked shoes and stockings, but soon, sitting such a while at the Heights had done the mischief. On the succeeding morning, I was laid up, and during these 3 weeks I remained incapacitated for attending to my duties, a calamity never experienced prior to that period, and never, I am thankful to say, since. My little mistress, having behaved like an angel in coming to wait on me, my cheer my solitude and confinement, brought me exceedingly low. It was wearisome to a stirring, active body, but some have slighter reasons for complaint than I had. The moment Catherine left Mr. Linton's room, she appeared at my bedside. Her day was divided between us. No amusement usurped a minute. She neglected her meals, her studies, and her play, and she was the fondest nurse that ever watched. She must have had a warm heart, and when her father said so, to give so much to me, when her father loved her so. I said her days were divided between us, but the master retired early, and I generally needed nothing after 6 o'clock. Thus the evening was her own. Poor thing, I never considered what she did with herself after tea, and though frequently, when she looked in to bid me good night, I remarked a fresh colour on her cheek and a pinkness on her slender fingers, instead of fancying the hue borrowed from a cold ride across the moor, I laid it to the charge of a hot fire in the library. Chapter 10. For next time. Thank you for listening.